Hi, this is Keith. In today's video, I'll be sharing my analysis on a very highly anticipated new EC which is launching very soon at Tampines West. Right, the name is Rivelle by developer Simlian. Right, so let's get into what I have for you. So in this video, I'll be sharing these few main takeaways. So number one will be the main highlights of Rivelle, what makes this EC so attractive. And number two, we'll be looking at the performance of the past nearby ECs in Tampines. And then we'll also be looking at the price gap of new ECs versus new private launches over the past 20 years. Right, this is very important because a lot of buyers have been asking me, hey Keith, now new EC is around 1,008, 1,009 PSF. Is it still a price that is safe to enter? So what do you think of the profit going forward? Right, so this is the part where I'll be addressing this. And then the number of BTO clusters and the HDB resale prices at Tampines itself. This is important because we always need a very sound exit strategy, and most of your buyers next time will be coming from this newly MOP HDB. And then number five, I'll be sharing some bonus tips for new EC upgraders and what we do for our clients. Going into the first one, main highlights of Rivelle. So I'll be just sharing the really main highlights which I feel makes Rivelle EC very attractive. So number one, it is just within 340 meters based on Google Maps to Tampines West MRT. I believe many of you will know that usually ECs are not so near to the MRT. So within 340 meters, this makes Rivelle very, very attractive in terms of your own convenience, and also next time when you put up in the open market, it will be very attractive to resale buyers. And number two, for parents, St. Hilda's Primary School is within 1 km, and what makes it even more attractive is that it is affiliated to the secondary school, which is just side by side. This is a huge advantage for young couples whose kids are preparing to go into primary school. And number three, to me, which is the most important factor, is that there will be a private integrated project by the name of Pioneer Residences, which will be launching ahead of Rivelle. So why is this important? Is number one, it gives you the additional convenience because for this project it is integrated. It has some commercial shops on a lower level, and then on top of this development will be condominium units, and it is also linked directly to Tampines West MRT. Rivelle EC buyers will be able to enjoy the convenience of having these retail shops and also the accessibility to Tampines West MRT without the need to pay a premium for your unit. On top of everything that I've mentioned, the most important factor is actually the entry price between the buyers of Pioneer Residences and Rivelle EC. Let me show you some good data so you can understand where I'm coming from. So on the screen now, what you are seeing is for Pioneer Residences. This 1004 PSF PPR is the price that developer has bidded for this piece of land. And then factoring all these costs involved, the break-even PSF, that means that developer don't make any profit, is at 1823 PSF. So usually for developer, they have around 20% profit margin. But because this is an integrated development, usually for integrated, it comes with additional premium. So I put in a 25% profit margin, which comes out to be around 2279 PSF, which means that for Pioneer Residences, the estimated launch price averagely will be around 2002 to 2003 PSF, right? So now let's take a look at Rivelle. So for Rivelle, we can see that the land price that the developer bidded and won is at only 768, which is around 200 plus difference between Pioneer and Rivelle. And after factoring all these costs involved, the break-even PSF is only at 1380. Factoring in the same 25% profit margin, so usually for EC is around 15 to 20%, but I just want to make it similar, so I just use 25%, and this gives me 1725 PSF. So does it mean that Rivelle EC will be launching at averagely 1725? Personally, I think it will be slightly higher. Let me show you some data so you know where I'm coming from. So as mentioned, Pioneer Residences is looking to launch around 2002 to 2003 PSF. This is in line with expectation because not too long ago, there was also another integrated project at Tampines North by the name of Parktown Residence, which achieved 87% so at average PSF of 2360, right? Then what about new EC? Also at the same time when Parktown was launched, there was Revel EC, And on launch day itself, it achieved 90% at average PSF of 1766. This shows us that there is very high demand for a private residential project in Tampines itself. So based on how well Rivelle EC performed on launch day, I personally feel that for Rivelle EC, it should launch slightly higher than this 1725 PSF as I've calculated. But the most in question is, if Rivelle is going to be launching at 1008 or even 1009 PSF, is it still worth it to enter? To answer this question, let's take a look at this private segment. Think about it. People who bought Parktown residents, it is not just minority. 87% of Parktown was sold. And buyers who are also going into primary residences, they are entering at PSF of around 2002 all the way to maybe 2004 if they selected a premium unit. With all the cooling measures in place, our ABSD, our SSD, our TDSR, buyers nowadays are no longer speculative. Most of them buy in knowing that they have to hold for probably 4 to 6 years before they can let go of the property with a good profit margin. And all these buyers here are no different. So eventually, when buyers of Parktown residents and binary residences put up their unit for sale in the resale market, similarly, they would also want to have a decent profit of probably around 400 to 500 PSF. What this means is, eventually when they put up their unit for sale, they will be listing their unit at around 2,800 to 2009 PSF easily. And what this means for EC buyers is that you have this luxury of the price gap where it becomes a very natural safety net. So take for example, if you were to enter into Rivelle at 1009 PSF, which sounds very high, but knowing that Parktown and primary sellers will be selling around 2008 to 2900 PSF, what this means to you is that in 8 years time, so why 8 years? Is because EC takes around 3 years to construct and there's a 5 years MOP period, 2034, when you eventually sell off your Rivelle unit, you just need to sell it off at today's 2026 price of what people are entering for Parktown and Pinery, and this will give you a very comfortable and expected 400 to 600 PSF of capital gain. This is why I mentioned, even though having an MRT right beside and a top primary school is a very good thing to have, having binary residences just right beside Rivelle EC is the most important factor why entering into Rivelle EC is super safe. So the next thing I want to show you is what other land plots are there in Tampines can we look forward to in future. There are not many plots available and most of them are not as attractive as Rivelle's location. So you can see from the screen, the blue circles are the plot and most of them are not so near to the MRT. There's only one plot over here which is right beside Tampines West MRT, beside Pinery and Rivelle EC. The thing is that if you miss Rivelle, very likely you will be paying for a similar location but at a higher price. Next, I'll just like to share with you the price performance of all the past ECs in Tampines. How have they performed? Right, so I put everything nicely in this map so that it will be easy for you to have a very good overview. So first of all, Rivelle is over here, right beside Tampines West MRT, just 340 meter. Okay, and then the earliest EC batches will be Pinevale and Simei Green Condominium. Okay, Pinevale achieving a very healthy 134% over all these years, even though it is not so near to the MRT. For Simei Green, it is sitting more towards the Simei estate. Very good capital gain, 181%, 377 meter to Upper Changi MRT. Okay, and then the next batch will be the Eden at Tampines. Very good profit, 200% capital gain, 537 meters to Tampines East MRT. And then the next batch will be Tampines Trillion, City Life, and Arc at Tampines. So you can see for Arc at Tampines, not so near to the MRT, 90% capital gain. For Tampines Trillion and City Life at Tampines, nearer to the Tampines Central, and look at the capital gain, 200% for Tampines Trillion and 100% for City Life Tampines. And the most recent EC that has been completed will be Park Central Residences, 31% capital gain, even though it is again not near to the MRT. With Rivelle's close distance to the MRT and with Pinery Residence just sitting right beside setting the price benchmark, I'm very confident that Rivelle EC will also do very well in future. So in the next few slides, I would just like to show you the price movement of all these past ECs. I'll go through from the oldest EC to the newest one. So first on the list will be Semi Green Condominium, launched in 1997, and up to today, it has achieved 181%, which is a fantastic return for all semi-green condominium buyers. Since we're looking at a chart right now, I'd just like to share something about new launch versus resale. Right, so for new launch, we will always see this new launch effect in terms of the pricing. And after seeing this effect, most of the time we will see that the project will start to get stagnant and the price will start to stabilize. But the thing you have noticed is that there is this additional spike in price. So why did this happen? It is because of COVID, which is something that is totally unforeseen, right? So if, let's say, there isn't any COVID, what do you think the prices will be from this point onward? So the likely scenario is that the price will still continue to be stabilized. That means that most often than not, holding on to a property for a prolonged period of time may not be a very wise move. This is how our Singapore property market has performed in the past 10 to 15 years, and you can easily see this exact same chart in the next few ECs that I'm going to show you. Right, so next one, Pinevale, launched also in 1997, and to today, achieving 134%. So as you may have observed, it has the same type of chart that I mentioned, the new launch effect spike, and then followed by stagnation, and then this increase because of COVID. But recently, I have quite a number of clients asking me, so Keith, if let's say the resale market is still on the uptrend, does it mean that it will be safer for me to buy a resale instead of new launch since the PSF is so high for new launch? So my answer to them is that yes, in this current market condition, there are still some resale projects that are worth looking at, but it is very important that you select the correct ones. If you'd like to know more on this topic, you can get in touch with me. So now let's carry on. And for Eden at Tampines, launched from 2001 all the way to today, nearly 200% profit, which is fantastic. All these charts looks pretty similar, so I won't be going through them one by one. I'll just scroll through smoothly, and if you want, you can pause the video and look at the charts at your own time. Alright, so next one will be Arc at Tampines, which again, you see this same observation. Tampines at Trillion, again, slightly same observation. City Life, and Park Central. Right, so for Park Central, not yet MOP, but already achieved 31%. Right, so this is because some of the buyers here could have gotten special approval to sell off their unit even though they haven't met their 5 years MOP. So eventually, when the 5 years MOP period has been met, I believe there will be still another spike in terms of the resale pricing. Okay, coming into the third topic will be to understand the price gap between new ECs and new private launches. Remember at the start, I was saying, does it make sense to enter at 1009 PSF? A lot of buyers have been asking me, telling me that 1009 is so high. They cannot believe that ECs are already near 2000 PSF. So is it safe? Does it really make sense for them to still enter at this type of price point? So this is the part where it is very important for you to understand how the prices work in terms of EC and private in Singapore. So what I've done is that I've prepared two charts. One is the red one, which is the prices for all new ECs. And then this blue one that you see is for the prices of all the new private launches in the outer region in Singapore. We call it the OCR. Right? So why I selected only OCR is because all the ECs are only launched in OCR, the outer area of Singapore. So in order for me to have an apple-to-apple comparison, I definitely need to only select the OCR region for new private launches. So back in 2005, what we can see is that when private is launching at 520 PSF, EC was only at 378. And in comparison, private is 37% higher. And what is the PSF gap? The PS gap is 142 PSF, a very small margin. But if let's say going to 2010, right, which is this portion over here, you can see that private is 973 PSF and EC is 724 PSF. The gap became wider, 34%, and naturally the PS gap is now 249. And then going forward to 2015, we can see the prices going up slowly and slowly. Private crossed 1000 PSF, 1176, and EC is around 799 PSF. Again, you see the gap between EC and the private launches widening up 47%, and now the gap is at 377 PSF. Coming to 2020, what we observe is that the percentage has shrunk slightly to only 37%, but the thing is that private is now transacting at 1532, whereas EC is at 1113. Even though the percentage has shrunk slightly, but because of how high the quantum has become, the PS gap is still increasing. Okay, I'll just go back a few slides. Initially, 2015 is only 377, but in 2020, it is already 419. So fast forward to today, 2025, prices for new launches in the outer central region of Singapore, the outer area, is already at 2,264 average PSF, where EC is at around 1,007, 1,008, the range that I mentioned just now. So you have noticed the percentage has again shrunk, but because of how high the PSF has become, the gap is still increasing and it has become 528 PSF. What this means is, even though the percentage seems to be smaller, but it is still getting more and more difficult for a buyer to enter into a new launch private market because of the PS gap widening. Right, so what does this tell us is that for a similar size unit in an EC versus a new private launch, the overall quantum that you are paying, the price gap is getting higher and higher. So this could be your last opportunity based on the amount of loan, CPF, and cash that you may have at this current moment. This also directly means that it is much more affordable for you to upgrade into the private segment by going for a new EC instead of a new private launch. And with this PSF gap widening, this means that your entry price is now even more buffered. And with this buffered PSF, again, this means that in future, when you eventually sell off this EC unit, the PSF gain will be even higher. The last point, which is also the most important point for all buyers to understand, is that new EC prices is always pegged against the new launch prices. So what this means is that, yes, you may feel that today 1,008, 1,009 PSF for a new EC is crazy, is too high. But we must remember that private new launch OCR projects are going at 2,200 PSF. It is always moving together with the new private launches price. So let's take a look at the chart again so that I can explain it easier. Back in 2005, when private was here, EC was here. 5 years later, when private reached a new high level, again, EC is at a new high. So if you are a buyer at this point in time, you are also paying a new high price. 5 years going forward, when private goes to another level, EC follows suit. Okay, and come to 2020, again, when private goes to another new high, this is where buyers back in 2020 are paying this new high price for EC. And fast forward to today, again, when private goes to another new high, EC prices goes together with private. So yes, I do understand why some of you are saying 1,008 and 1,009 is too high, but we must understand this logic of this price movement so that we can understand the market and make an informed decision. Coming to the fourth topic, we'll be looking at the HDB estates in Tampines itself, the newly MOP clusters, how much are they selling, and how many upcoming MOP clusters are there. This is very important because, again, eventually when you want to let go of your EC, there have to be enough resale buyers available, and more importantly, have the financial capability to buy over your unit. So again, I presented them in this map so that you can have a very easy overview. As of 2023 to 2025, there are 5 main clusters which already have transactions, and these are their locations. So how much are these units transacting at? I'll show you in the next slide. So this is Tampines Greenwich, which is this plot over here, the oldest out of these 5 clusters. And from here, you can see that the 4-room unit ranges from 700 all the way to 824,000. And for 5-room unit, 763 to 970K, near a mil. And the average profit of all these HDB BTO buyers are around 430, 440,000. Okay. And the next batch will be Tampines Greenview, Tampines Greenwith. Pricing very similar, and profit 450 to 480 around there. And these two will be the newest cluster. 5 room 935,000, and for Tampines Greenbloom, 4 room reaching 800k, and 5 room nearly hitting 1 mil. And the profit they are looking at is again around 400 to 500k. In future, any of them wishes to upgrade to a private, it makes it natural and financially capable for them to buy your resale EC unit. I have put the 4 room and the 5 room summary at the side. If you are interested, you can pause this video and take a look at these figures at your own time. So what about the upcoming BTO clusters? How many more BTOs are going to be meeting the MOP in the next 5 to 6 years? So there are a total of 114 HDB blocks. Based on a rough gauge, there will be around 12,000 HDB MOP unit in the next 4 years. And what about the stock level of EC units in Tampines? So this is a consolidation of all the past ECs together with Tenet EC, Rivelle EC, and Rivelle EC. How many units are there in total? Only less than 6,000. This is again very important information for you to know, as you will know exactly where your resale buyers will be coming from. Alright, so I'll just do a very quick summarization of what I went through with you in this video and why you should seriously consider Revel EC. So number one is because it is very rare for EC to be just 350 meters away from an MRT station. And not only that, St. Hilda's Primary School, being one of the top primary schools in Singapore, have an affiliation to the secondary school, which is just right beside. And then most importantly is having an integrated project, Pioneer Residences, just beside, giving you the convenience and setting the price benchmark, directly locking in your capital gain in future. Number 3 is that there will be no more ECs going to be launching in the East this year or the next. Even if there's a new EC in the next few years, the location is likely to be less attractive than Revel, and the price that you'll be paying will also likely to be higher. Number 4 will be the superb performance of all the past ECs in Tampines. And not only the past, even the recent new private launches like Parktown, Revel EC, the take-up rate is very healthy. And as I explained, the PS gap between the new EC and the new private launches, we must always understand that at any point in time, a new EC will always be at an all-time high price. This is something that as buyers, as investors, we must understand so that we can make a good decision. Number 6, super easy exit with high capital gain expected. This is what I've explained earlier because of Pioneer just beside us, giving this very natural advantage. Number 7 will be timing. Because new ECs are not predictable, you do not know when the next launch, next plot is going to come. And so if today you are eligible, but you adopt the wait and see approach, you may not be eligible in probably 2 to 3 years time, and you would have missed the opportunity. This is a very common scenario that happens to a lot of buyers. So this sums up my analysis for Revel EC, and I personally feel that you should seriously consider this EC, be it you are a first timer or an EC upgrader. Okay, so I have some bonus tips, advantages of new EC, especially for HDB upgraders that I'd like to share with everyone. So the number 1 is that if you're an existing HDB owner, you do not need to sell a HDB now, and you are able to book the new EC, right? So how new EC works is slightly different than new private launches, and this gives you the luxury to be able to book the new EC while continuing to stay in your current HDB, saving you the problem of having no place to stay or having the need to go and rent a unit while the project is being constructed. And number 2 is that no ABSD is required for booking a new EC while holding on to your HDB. And upgrading to a new EC, to me, is one of the safest manner possible. Remember, just now I was telling you about the opportunity, about the affordability, about the price gap, and then about the safe exit. All this sums up to why I say upgrading to a new EC is going into the private segment in the safest manner. And not only you do not need to sell off your HDB, there is something we call the bridging loan, where the valuation of your current HDB is able to help you out in this purchase. So how this helps is that it may drastically reduce the amount of cash outlay required during down payment. And then one of the key advantage is that you can collect the key to your EC and slowly sell off your HDB in 6 months' time. But do take note that not everyone is able to achieve this, but we have come up with a very unique solution to help our buyers adopt this strategy as much as possible. So how can we assist you as an upgrader, or you are a first timer looking to go for a new EC? So number one is that we will do an eligibility assessment for you, ensure that you are definitely eligible to go for an EC. And number two will be to do a financial and loan assessment for you. So you will know exactly how much loan you can get, how much CPF you can utilize, how much bridging loan you can get from your current HDB, and down to the exact cash amount required to go for the EC. So everything will be calculated very carefully and detailed for you. Number three will be your risk assessment. Every time when you upgrade, you must know where your max budget is, leaving behind what we call a safety net. So in times of rainy days, at least you are not overstretching and you're not overexposing yourself to risk. And then how do you choose the right unit to maximize your family's enjoyment and at the end of the day, maximize your capital gain? This is also something that I study in depth for every project and able to give the right recommendations to all my customers. And lastly will be appeals. So if let's say you haven't met your 5 years MOP period, but you would like to try, or if let's say your income ceiling exceeded the 16,000 mark and you would like us to put in an appeal, this is something that I'm experienced to do for you also. So what I mean by selecting a unit is that this is the site plan for Rivelle, for example. So out of so many 3-bedders, 4-bedders, different facing unit, which unit should you select so that you can enjoy staying there and in the future make a good capital gain? An example, which floor plan should you select so that in future when you put up your unit for sale, there will be a higher demand? So these are things that I analyze in depth and I can share with you further if you do engage my service. Alright, so this comes to the end of this video. I hope you have found this beneficial. And if you would like to visit the show flat during its preview, probably starting around mid-March, do feel free to drop me a WhatsApp or give me a call anytime and I can make an appointment for you. So this is Keith. Thank you for watching this video.